Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This is my October reading wrap up. I feel like this lighting situation though is kind of fitting for it. It's very different. I don't think I'm going to be a fan of it, but tell me why it's 3 p.m. and it's already dark outside. Crazy. Anyways, I read 19 books in October and we're going to go through and talk about what I read and what I rated them. Pretty straightforward at this point. So we're actually going to start out with one of my favourite new series. It's a 5-star series for me, but I have only read 3 out of the 4 books, and that is The Ember Quartet by Sabaa Tahir. I met Sabaa at an event and she signed my books for me, which was so fun. Just a huge moment. This is me opening my apps and realizing that I haven't rated half of my books this month for some reason. So I think book 1, what did I think of book 1? I don't remember what I rated it. 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I really loved it. I feel like if you like Throne of Glass and you like This Woven Kingdom and you like a young adult fantasy with politics and a magic system and, you know, a story that is spread out over a few different books of trying to defeat a evil power or bad guys, I think you'll probably like this. I thought the setting in the world was so atmospheric. We had so much going on. We have different characters. We've got I really enjoyed that we have characters that are really closely connected but also very different in terms of like their moral beliefs, their ethics. They see the world in completely different ways even though they were sort of brought up within the same institution. And you know, there is differing opinions and conflicts. People grow together, people grow apart, but we have a cast of characters. It's very interesting, and we do have dual point of view, but as the series progresses you end up getting 3 point of views, which is very fun. And there's so many little subplots. Romance is a subplot in this. I wouldn't say like the romance is the main story, but there is a bit of romance in it, but it is like slow burn. You get that tension, you get that yearning. So I'm dying to start book 4, which will be the last book in the series. And then she also has a spin-off called Air, which is set 20 years after these books, and I'm also dying to read that. I have a fairy edition for that. So Chef's Kiss, book 2, 5 stars. Book 3, 4.75 stars. Book 4, I don't know, we'll see. It's probably going to be one of my like next reads or like first reads in the month of November. The first book I actually read in November was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This was 4.25 stars for me because I loved it as much as I loved book 1. I know a lot of people were a hit or miss with book 1 with the whole billionaire romance and the characters themselves, but I personally love them, and I feel like as a bit of a nerdy, awkward person, I really like those characters. The Rose Hill series is a spin-off from the Chestnut Spring series, but it's also not a spin-off. It is also different, but they're connected. The same way that Gold Rush Ranch is connected to Chestnut Spring series, is connected to that. That was a very long-winded bad way of explaining things, but in the first book, Wild Love, it's Willa's brother. Yeah, Willa's brother. So characters are connected. So this is the brother of the main female character in book 1. All of the books in this series I think are going to follow single dads in this bowling club in this small town, but this is between a single dad and a celebrity, a country singer. So very interesting dynamics. Is it wild and out there and that would never really happen in real life? Yeah, that's kind of the point. I'm learning that I really like single dad books. Who knew? So 4.25. This was one of my most anticipated reads, Born of Blood and Ash, and this is JLA's final book in the Flesh and Fire series. Why is it a brick? Huge, and the writing is tiny. This is the size of a normal paperback, by the way, for reference. Can you believe that? I can't. Anyways, no complaints from me. 4.5 stars. Now, a lot of people either love or hate JLA books. Like, the writing style is very distinct and specific, and if it's not for you, then it's definitely not going to be for you. But if you enjoyed Blood and Ash and you enjoy the Flesh and Fire series, I don't know why you wouldn't enjoy this. I feel like the 3rd book in the Flesh and Fire series was the most disappointing for me overall because it was set in 2 different parts of the world with characters being separated, and I was missing a lot of the Drakens, I was missing a lot of the side characters, the main characters interacting together, and this book is long and huge and is part of it, or at least like the first 40% filler. Yeah, but for me that's making up for what we didn't have in book 3. And are they conversations that we could have maybe cut out? Yeah, but they were still entertaining and I still loved them and I still love the characters and I very much enjoyed reading it. The second half of the book though, as soon as I finished this book, I was like, I need the next Blood and Ash book, because the way that they are connected, like, I need to get a board behind me and I need to get string and pins and map out timelines and who's connected to who and the history and the world, because this is so fucking in depth. What do you mean? I just want to talk about spoilers right now, but I can't. Knowing what I know now, I just love it. I want to go back. I want to read. I want more. And we do have a release date for the penultimate book in the Blood and Ash series, which is going to be the second last book. And it's not until next year. I have no more JLA books to read right now, but that really hit the spot. Am I very sad to be losing Nyktos and Sarah? Yes. I love Seraphina. I love Nyktos. I love the Drakens. I'm excited after those reveals and the way that that book ended, knowing what I know now. Give me the next book, please. Thank you very much. Abby Jimenez, 5 fucking stars. Excuse my French, my language. I try to mind the words I say in my videos, but I swear a lot. I'm sorry. Dr. Jacob. But then we also have Justin. Also, Justin being in this, and then this being directly connected to Part of Your World book 1, but then this being the best friend of the main female character in Part of Your World. They're all connected. Like, when everyone said Abby Jimenez has an interconnected standalone series and the books can be read in any order, I was like, oh yeah, I'll probably just read them in any order, and I picked this one up first, and everyone was like, no. I got yelled at in my DMs not to read this one first. So then I went back, I read Part of Your World. We've already read that in another reading vlog in another month. 5 stars, loved it. Then I read this one and was like, okay, yeah, I can see they're connected. 5 stars. The first half was 6 stars, but the conflict started to drag a little bit for me. So I was like, okay, still love it, but it's just a 5 stars. Just 5 stars. 5 stars is a feeling. And then we read this one and I was like, how are they going to connect this too? Is it just going to be through Justin? No, it was not just through Justin. It's so smart. And Abby Jimenez is definitely my favorite contemporary romance author. I don't know why. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but it's like the stories, the characters. I get so giddy. I get so connected. I love every character. I'm obsessed with every main male character. I'm like, why can't we have more men like that? If all real men acted like fictional men written by women, the world would be a better place. Because this is so good. I kind of went in with lower expectations for this one because all of my mutuals had rated it like 2 and 3 stars, but I have not stopped thinking about Charlie and Nora since finishing this book. This was 5 stars for me. I am so surprised by the amount of 5-star contemporary romance books that we've had. Like, I've not intentionally been throwing out 5 stars here, there, and everywhere, but we have had so many 5 stars. This is definitely my favorite Emily Henry book, and a lot of people I know who loved Beach Read but like weren't so big on Happy Place, didn't love this book as much, but I didn't mind Beach Read and I loved Happy Place. So I feel like I prefer her books that are more contemporary fiction, women's fiction with romance in it. For some reason, I don't mind that, but like I would have loved this to be more focused on Charlie and Nora, obviously, but the setting, the fact they're book lovers and they work in the publishing and editing industry, just the character archetypes. Like Nora was giving me Nesta. It was Nesta coded. It was giving me Winter from Reckless. You know, I felt very seen with her. And then Charlie as well. I felt very connected to Charlie. The two of them were sort of giving me a different version of Hallie and Henry, where there are 2 books where both main male and female characters I have seen myself in, and I feel like I can relate to both of them. And that really happens. Usually for like a main male character or a main female character, I'll pick one or the other and have like a connection with one, but like both, 5 stars. And I do think this is definitely the Emily Henry book I think about most. Just love them. This book doesn't come out until March next year. I read it in October. This is Summer in the City by Alex Astor. I really enjoyed this. This reminded me of like early 2000s rom-coms set in New York City, where New York feels like a character itself. It's very atmospheric. The setting is a big part of the story, and I love the vibe. I really liked the main female character in this. Chapter 30 though. When other people have read this book, I can't wait to talk about chapter 30 because that was insane. I think I'm very easy to please with romances and contemporary romance rom-coms because for me, my list of what I'm looking for in one is not as high as like a fantasy or a romantasy. They're always a lot shorter, as long as I can like the characters or there's enough growth in them for me to like them, but also it's the way that the book makes me feel. Like, I love to binge watch and have always loved cheesy early 2090s romance movies and rom-coms, and that's my guilty pleasure and that's what I like. And when I'm reading a contemporary romance book, I want that feeling, but in a book. I want to be giddy over two main characters. I want to feel like I can visualize this as a movie and I'm reading it and I'm living in it. And, you know, it follows a very standard formula of characters meet, they start to get to know each other, there's a third act conflict, will they make it, will they not? Rom-coms for me always end in a happily ever after, and I'm happy. And if it's done well, I love it. And I think this was done well. I think this was very fun. And for her first adult book, because there was like a little bit of spice in this, but I wouldn't say like a crazy amount, and it comes later. And I just thought it was perfect. I thought it was really well done. I love this, and I'm definitely wanting to reread it again in the summertime, because I feel like reading this in the summer is going to be perfect. Like when it's coming out in March next year, oh yeah, maybe I'll do a reread then. Like that would be really fun. But I can't wait for people to pick this one up. If you've been like unsure if you want to read it or not, I would say it's fun. If you like contemporary romances or you're looking for palette cleansers in between fantasy reads like me, like very, very fun. And I do think about certain scenes in those books, but it is also a billionaire romance. Like the main character is a billionaire. So if that's not your thing, then if you're wanting something like really realistic, yeah, maybe that one's not gonna be for you. But we have The Dagger and the Flame by Catherine Doyle. This was everywhere last month, and I feel like everyone picked it up and read it, and I really enjoyed it. Like, this is my favorite type of fantasy romancy book, and it hit all the tropes and all the cravings that I wanted. It's young adult, but there was some spice in it, which is the only thing that I was sort of like, whoa, was not expecting that. Especially considering that I've only ever read Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle. I don't know if she has any other books, but I was like, oh, we're really jumping up in like the YA age rating. But I think it was fun. I think if you like Powerless, that type of two main characters, you like a lot of like giddiness. I wouldn't say they're enemies to lovers, but I wouldn't say it's like proper enemies to lovers. I would say two people who are in opposing gangs. And it has the I was sent to kill you but trope, which I absolutely devoured. And there's scenes where they write these little like notes to each other. Giggling. So much fun. I just think it was fun. I always just want to read a book and come out of it feeling like that was really fun and I really enjoyed that. And that is how this book made me feel. I read Nothing Like the Movies, which is a sequel to Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Now, I love Better Than the Movies. It was a 5 stars for me, and I was very nervous when I heard that this book was coming out, because I was like, are you gonna ruin it? What happens after a book ends in a happily ever after? How does it pick up, and like, how can you make that story better? Sometimes it's better to leave things than, you know, try and force a second one out of it. But I really enjoyed it. It was quite different, because you're going from a high school setting to a college setting. And I know a lot of people had issues with Liz's character and how she sort of changed when she got to college, but I thought that that was very realistic. I thought for a book that, you know, references so many early 2000s and 90s rom-coms and a rom-com movie put into a book in the modern day, how are they gonna do this? Like, it was realistic but still felt like that. I would say Better Than the Movies felt like an early 2010s rom-com movie. This was giving more of a modern day version. There was more technology in a college setting and people had grown up and things had changed. But book 1 is Liz's story, and I'd say book 2 is Wes's story. Like, this followed a lot more on Wes, and I love Wes Bennett as a character, so I really enjoyed this, and I did want to cry at a few points for him. I enjoyed it. I do think book 1 was better, but I really enjoyed this. I think for a sequel, I was personally happy with how it was done. Then we have Anathema by Kerry Lake. This was my book club book of the month, and I do a whole dedicated reading vlog for my book club. It's free to join. It's through the Fable app. I always have it linked down below if you're interested in joining. You don't have to participate actively every month. You know, you can skip if you've already read a book or it's not for you, but I really love, you know, being in my book club and getting involved in that, and love making the videos for that. So if you're already in my book club, then you know exactly how I feel about this book. It is not what I thought it was going to be, because I know, is it Nocticadia or Nocticardia? I don't know how you say it, but that by Carrie Lake blew up and everyone has been reading it and raving about it and loving it. But that's more dark academia. Like, I don't think that's fantasy. Anathema, which I was kept calling Anathema, I found out I was pronouncing it wrong, is dark gothic fantasy but with horror. I didn't know that there was going to be horror. I didn't do any research into the book, which is my fault. Also check trigger warnings. Trigger warnings are something that you should always check before reading a book, but this was almost too much for me. I'm not a dark romance reader, and like, I don't typically like dark things, but I do read darker romanticises and I love them. This was like if you took One Dark Window and mixed it with What Lies Beyond the Veil and then added a touch of God of Madness and then Slaying the Shifter Prince. What an interesting combination we got going there. The first 35% I was considering DNFing, and I've never DNF'd a book in my life, but I was like, I'm not sure if this is for me. I'm also not that invested and I'm a little bit bored, but the dark stuff was dark. The dark stuff made me want to cry, and the horror was actually not too bad. I could deal with that, but the dark trigger warning stuff, I almost threw in the towel. And then we hit like 35% in the characters. We had some forced proximity, and I was like, okay, now we're talking. Now it's getting interesting. And from there on, I found myself really enjoying it. Very, very conflicted with the rating, because how do you rate a book that you ended up enjoying, but it's not your favorite, but you did enjoy it and you do want to read more of the authors, but you also wanted to DNF the first chunk of it? Like, would I recommend this book actively to people? No. I think you have to have a very specific taste and mood and book preference to go and read this. But did I personally enjoy it? Yeah. Did I? I'm confused. My rating might still TBD, to be determined. That's how I feel about that book. Speaking of Slaying the Shifter Prince, I read A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager, which is the first book in a trilogy. Book 1 and 2 is out. A Touch of Poison, I also read that. This was 4.75 for me, and A Touch of Poison was 4.5 stars for me. And I love this series. I think if you like ACOTAR, if you like darker romantasy, fae and a human ends up in a fae world, and you like spies and assassins and that kind of thing, this is fun. It does get a bit lusty, but I don't think it was acted on straight away. Like, there is obviously an immediate attraction between the characters, and if that's not your favorite thing, maybe not for you. But this was giving Poppy and Castile in a different font, but in like an ACOTAR setting. It was so fun. I flew through this book. It's also available on Kindle Unlimited, and I cannot wait for the next book, which is supposed to be getting released very soon. Fully confirmed yet, but we should be getting it in the next month, and I will be picking that book up straight away. But well, there's also a book you can read in between book 1 and 2, and it's like a standalone book but set in the same world and has characters from book 2. That's Slaying the Shifter Prince. Now, if you watch my reading vlog, you already know how I feel. I'm just gonna pop that clip in here, because that was the craziest book I think I've ever read. Can't really spoil anything, but it starts out with our main female character is trying to assassinate the prince, and she fails. Like, the whole time I was like, I hate this main male character. I finished the book and I still don't like him. There was some character development and growth, but both of the main characters were just as like fucked up as each other. But that was wild. I gave it, I think, a 3-star, because it was entertainment, okay? But my goodness, if you don't like anything slightly dark, don't read that. But I did enjoy that. I would say that the series overall so far for me is like 4.5. It could be 5 stars, depending on how book 3 goes. It could be 5 stars, but right now we'll say 4.5 stars. And then I read Never Keep by the Twisted Sisters. Now, why are the Zodiac Academy girlies not going and reading this already? Because this was so good. I mean, the first 35% of the book was action heavy, battle scenes, war. You're kind of like, this is different. I don't know how I was feeling about that. There was a lot. It was giving Crescent City 1 info dumping. It was giving, I don't know what the fuck is going on, and I'm just trying to get through it, and I also don't know if it's for me. And then we actually get to Never Keep, which is the setting that the book takes place in. It's also the name of the book. And then I was like, oh, okay, now this is giving Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac. This is giving Zodiac Academy. This is giving those same vibes. For me, I would say Never Keep is like if you take Zodiac Academy and Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac and mix it with Fourth Wing, War College, but with the same magic system and world and creatures and beings, but with like a darker War College vibe. And the ending. I need more people to go and read it just so I can talk to people about it, because why is no one reading this book? That was 4 stars for me. And I keep thinking about how the book ended and how we're going to get the next book in the series. I don't know if it's been confirmed how many books there are going to be in that series, but I love the Twisted Sisters. I read the STEMinist Novellas by Ali Hazelwood. They were fun. They were very short. The first one, Under One Roof, was probably my favorite, and that was like, if you took a normal contemporary romance and you made it shorter, that's what that was giving to me, of like 2 roommates, and there was a then and now timeline in all of the books, which is very interesting. It follows 3 friends who went to college together, and they all work in like science, engineering, NASA, you know, and they all have their own individual story. Book 2 was like a different setting. They were trapped in a lift, an elevator, and it was going between when they first met versus now in this lift and dealing with conflict. And that was also very fun. I very much enjoyed that. And then the third one was literally about 2 people in NASA, and it was very entertaining. I just love the way that Ali Hazelwood writes, so I really enjoyed these. And for novellas, I thought that they felt longer than what they were. Like, a lot happened in them. I was like, how are we going to get, you know, stories on these characters? They all already sort of had past background or previous relationships with one another. Like, it wasn't characters meeting for the first time ever. You got like how they met in it, but if you like a more slower burn and you don't like characters getting together quite quickly, maybe novellas that are under 200 pages that are contemporary romance books aren't the thing to be picking up. So just keep that in mind going in. But for a novella, for a quick and easy read as a palate cleanser in between my books, wanting something more Ali Hazelwood, because I just love her writing and her characters and how she writes stories, I really enjoyed it. I'd say for novellas, I'd give them all 4 stars, but like total like that, the STEMinist Novellas overall. But for novellas, I really enjoyed it. I think this is probably the fastest I've ever done a reading wrap up. I wanted to keep it quite short and just like blow through a reading wrap up, because sometimes they can just be a bit too long and boring, and I didn't want that. But there are so many releases coming in November that I have no idea how many books I'm going to read in November or what I'm going to get through, but I'm very excited for that. So now that we've done my reading wrap up, we're going to have some more reading vlogs coming. We're going to start jumping into the November books. We've picked my November TBR for the month, and I can't wait to pick up a book and start reading together. Next video should be a reading vlog, so I will see you in that.